Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I'm your host, Cameo, and today we are joined by my husband and co-host, Mr. Greg Braun. Hi, Greg.
How's it going?
We are also joined by Wendy Lobel, and she is the director and producer of the new film Anxiety Club. And we'll get to more on that in just a second, but you all know that Greg likes to start us with a dad joke. So, Greg, lay it on us.
Yes, welcome, Wendy. You have a movie out, so you're on the HD screen. So I want to share this one with you. What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K?
What?
Are you a Star Wars fan?
No, not so much.
No. He said, HD I am.
HDIM, and we get the voice. Thank you, Greg.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
a dull moment. Wendy, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. We are honored to have you and so excited to talk about your new film, a documentary about anxiety. It's heartfelt, it's funny, it brought a tear or two to my eyes. It made me feel very seen, and I'm sure the audiences all over are receiving it in the same way. You bring in comedians to talk about their real, raw experience with anxiety. What a better way to present a topic that is much needed and with much needed levity. So thank you again so much for being here. I have to start by saying we had the honor of meeting Wendy at a film screening in Sarasota, Florida, which is where we're based. And so we didn't really know what to expect, to be quite honest. I'm a Tiffany Jenkins fan. Tiffany's in the film, and I had seen it through her. And so we went to the film screening, and I was just like, okay, this lands so hard with me right now. And then we got to talk to you afterwards. So thank you for being willing to talk to us and to our listeners about the film. It came out, gosh, just a couple of weeks ago officially.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
on.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it. And I appreciate that, meeting you guys at the film festival, and then that you followed up with me and that we're doing this. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. So tell us, Wendy, how did this all begin? Where did the idea to create a documentary and film about anxiety start for you?
The seed for it started around 2013 when I was working on a kids news program called Nick News with Linda Ellerby, and it was on Nickelodeon, and I had worked on it for many years. And I had done an episode about teens with anxiety. And I have anxiety, and I had anxiety at the time. I've had it for most of my adult life, maybe before, without knowing what it was. And I was just really moved by the stories of these kids. Saw a lot of suffering, but I also saw that a lot of them were doing better, having gone through something called exposure therapy, which, as you know, is in Anxiety Club as well. And it was the first I had heard of exposure therapy, which is part of cognitive behavioral therapy. Anyway, so I saw that the therapy was really profoundly helping some of these kids. And that was when the seed. That was when the seed was planted. And then a few years passed, and started working, started thinking about doing a larger film, a feature film about anxiety. And I always knew that it was going to be about the experience of anxiety and how to get from anxious to calm or calmer. And I knew that I wanted to follow one character through exposure therapy because I believed in it. And it's also something that I knew would work for film, and as opposed to sitting in on a session where people, the therapist and the patient are just talking. This was more, it just lent itself better for film.
Sure.
The exposure exercises are, pretty intense and interesting to see. So that's when it started. And then at some point it evolved into comedians. Originally it was going to be regular people with anxiety. And through the casting and research process, looking into all kinds of people, and eventually started looking into some comedians. My husband is really into comedy, and he was like, oh, this person. And so I started looking into comedians who really focus a lot of their material on anxiety, on their anxiety,
Mhm.
stand up, or like in Tiffany's case, sketch videos. And it was
Mhm.
just really compelling and just seemed like a better way to talk about a serious subject like anxiety.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I found that it was very, for such a heavy topic, for something that's so relatable and kind of scary to talk about, quite honestly, because
Yeah.
you're not sure, am I the only one that feels this way? Maybe something's wrong with me. To bring comedians in and have them lighten it up is
Yeah.
something that helps everyone feel more comfortable with a heavy topic specifically. So I was curious about that. I love that you landed on comedians, and they all did such a great job, not just making it funny, but being really honest and really, what's the word I'm looking for?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable is
Yeah,
exactly the word I was looking for, because it takes a lot to share those personal, private moments of your deepest, darkest fears and concerns
it
that
does.
again, many people keep to themselves. So it brings it to a light that helps people feel brave enough to confront it.
Yeah.
Exposure therapy was not something that I had heard of until we saw the film. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's you have to be brave to do it and you have to work hard, but it's behavioral therapy, and it is something that, you basically start where you're at, meaning that you're not talking about your childhood and things that happened a long time ago. You're starting where you are, and it's really, you're looking at you're doing exercises. You're going towards the fear. I mean, when we have anxiety, so often we avoid things. We avoid the things that we feel are too scary or that we're not going to be able to handle. And so this kind of therapy allows one to go towards the fear in a methodical and a safe way. And you do exercises. You start doing things that are that challenge you in the places where you were maybe once avoiding. And the idea is that you eventually get to the point where you realize, like, okay, this seems so scary, but it's not as scary as I thought. You're
Mhm.
doing things over and over again. Each week there are different exercises, and you're doing it over and over again until it becomes like boring, or doesn't, or you don't have the same emotional reaction to it. You don't have the same fears associated with it. And it's one of the evidence-based treatments for anxiety and OCD. And it's really shown to help a lot of people. It's not for everyone, and you have to really do it in order to
Yeah.
make a change in your life. But for those who do, I think it can be very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our experience with therapy has been talk therapy or EMDR therapy. So this idea of starting where you are is very interesting to me. And I'm not sure that I even understood it that way until you just put it that way. So thank you for explaining that. And not to, I want everyone to watch this film. Every single person on the planet should watch this film. And it's on jolt.film. Side
Yes.
note, go to jolt.film. You can stream it right from home. You don't have to leave the house to go watch it, which is
Yep.
lovely. Especially when we're talking about anxiety, just
Right.
the idea there's no anxiety to go anywhere if that is something that is,
Right.
a roadblock. But
Yes.
in the film, Tiffany specifically has to do, you talk about scary things. As moms, I think we constantly worry about our kids at different phases in different ways. Now I'm probably perimenopausal and my kids are older, but now I worry about them like what feels like anxiety that just slams into me like a wall. But Tiffany had to do this exposure therapy exercise where she had to write down, and forgive me if I don't get it exactly right, but my kids are going to die, or something. What did
Maybe
she?
my kids will die today.
Mm.
Maybe my kids will die today. That, I feel like that's even worse because
I
we all know
know.
we're all going to die. But the whole maybe my kids will die today was something that, I mean, I it's hard to say. She had to write it over and over and over again as one of her practices, and I don't know that I could bring myself to write that down. And but to your point, after she did it a million times, it became something that just became robotic almost. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it took the power
powerless.
out of it. I mean, when people hear some of these things, when people hear you have to write, maybe my kids will die today, it sounds crazy. I mean, it really does. And again, it's not for everyone. I mean, it doesn't. You have to really believe in it, and see the benefits of it and take a leap of faith. And you know, it was the first, I think it was the first exposure that she was asked to do, that she was assigned, and it was like, whoa, you know, that, we're going to start
That's a
with
big
her.
one.
Very
Yeah.
intense. We're diving right in. Yeah.
Right, right. And yeah, and it was just, I mean, Tiffany was amazing because she was so determined to really do this, give it her all to do this for her kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, she was being filmed and she was part of this film, but she knew, I mean, we told her from the beginning, listen, if at any point this isn't for you, you don't want to do it, you want to back out, it's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So her motivation was that she wanted to be different with her kids. She
Yeah.
didn't want to be as fearful. She didn't want to prevent them from doing fun things that all kids were doing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, people will have to watch the film to see what happened, but it was a very interesting process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has been very transparent and vulnerable in her books and her entire story. So that was amazing to watch on the film. But what I also thought was very interesting was that each comedian had their own thing that they struggled with. So Tiffany's was with her kids, but they all attached it to their own why. Like, what's the driving force behind why I want to make this change? And the way that they each share it, that's why there's something in this for everyone. Why everyone should watch it, because you don't have to be a mom to be able to relate to these feelings that people are experiencing.
Right, exactly. I mean, they all have different kinds of anxiety. In some cases, they have the same, or in some cases, they have a few different types of anxiety. You know, like Joe List. I mean, he says he's got it all. He's got, you know, panic disorder, and he has OCD and generalized anxiety and social anxiety. I mean, he goes through the list of everything that he feels he has. And so, yeah, I think that anybody who has, you know, listen, everybody has anxiety to a certain extent, but it's like when it interferes with your daily life, like that's when it becomes a problem, or it can become a problem. And that's when I think people should be encouraged to seek help. So I think that anybody who feels more than a regular normal dose of anxiety in their daily life will be able to relate to at least one of the characters, if not more. So
Yeah.
it's true. They all have it in one way or another, but it's different. But I think that with anxiety and OCD, maybe OCD a little different, but with anxiety, it's like it looks different. Everybody experiences it differently, but yet there are some things that I think we all feel when we struggle with anxiety. You know, the avoidance, sometimes the people pleasing, looking for reassurance. You know, those kinds of things are, you know, kind of universal. Maybe not everyone, but there's a lot of commonalities within the population of people with anxiety.
I agree. And I would also say that I think everyone wonders, is this a normal level of anxiety that I'm experiencing? Is this too far? Does everyone feel this way? And so each of the characters, each of the comedians that share their story, presenting kind of what they experience, and then with a chuckle, again, landed for me in such a way that I was like, okay, I know that I have some tools that I can use, but now I've been given this kind of example that there are other things that, should it go too far, that I can work through. And in addition to exposure therapy, there were other ways that were presented in the film to manage anxiety. And one of which we spoke after the film when we met in person about meditation, which we are huge meditators. I know Greg was so excited to pull out his Spotify app and show you that he listens to Tara Brach every day at 3:00. So we loved that Tara Brach was in the film, and that a couple, if not all of them, of the comedians shared that they use meditation as a tool to manage their anxiety, amongst other things. Is there anything that stands out to you with any of the comedians in particular that was something that they, you know, leaned on in a way that was different?
You know, I don't know if there's anything that is different. I mean, I would say certainly Joe. I mean, the Tara Brach thing was interesting because when we were filming with Joe early on, this was probably back in 2018, 2019. I mean, it was a while ago. And we wanted to film him meditating because he was meditating at the time. And he sits down and he starts listening to Tara Brach. He had her books. I mean, he was a real fan of Tara Brach and felt that she had really helped him a lot. And I had heard of her, but I didn't know much about her. And then just figured, like, let me reach out and see if she would be interested in being a part of this. And she was, which was amazing. So I think that for Joe, like, meditation definitely has helped him a lot. You know, in terms of like things that weren't in the film, I'm just trying to think. You know, definitely Aparna said that she would often do a meditation before she would go on stage to do a set. I think maybe she also did some deep breathing. Certainly Tiffany does, is a fan of something called box breathing. It's like, you know that one, right?
Oh no, please share. But
it's
yes,
like,
I love the box breathe. It helps center
yeah, I
me.
mean, it's like the, you know, breathing in for 4 breaths, holding for 4, breathing out for 4 breaths, and holding for 4. I never, you know, I always heard it as box breathing, but then I heard Tiffany, actually, she described it in this LA Times article that came out today, that she literally envisions, she pictures a box, a square, and does that, looks at that when she's, thinks of that when she's doing her breathing. So, I mean, some of them talked about exercise. I mean, really, I mean, it's really kind of the things that we hear about commonly when we're talking about how to deal with anxiety and medication. I mean, it's really, you know, there are so many tools and not everything works for everyone. I've certainly tried from, you know, all of them, and they've all, you know, they've all helped at different times. Certain things work better for me than others, but I think it's great that there's a whole lot of tools that people can pick from in a way and
Yeah.
try out.
Yeah.
It's work.
That's what I think I took from that. I didn't really know what I was going to. I just knew we were going to a movie premiere and wear something cool.
He gets
Wear
looped into
something
a lot of
nice.
things.
But I heard all about Tiffany's book and her journey and stuff. So we were like, all right, let's go check this out. And
Yeah.
I was blown away. I mean, I was literally just blown away. It seems very accessible. I'm a meditator. I believe in it. And then, you know, just to see how that's worked into it along the other things, it makes it very relatable. And I think a lot of people, the general population, will be able to absorb this and feel freed and feel like I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one, you know, and I think that
Yeah.
it's just, and by having, were there 4 different lives, 4 different comedians,
So
or?
there were 7, but some of them we followed more closely than others. But
Okay.
there were 7 comedians in there.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, you that right there makes a great mix. You know, you might relate, the viewer might relate to one more than the other, and so it just kind of, it really worked for me. I thought it was a great movie. So
thanks, Greg. That's so
yeah,
nice. I'm so glad. I mean, we really are getting so much positive feedback. And I mean, the thing that's most meaningful to me and the team that made this film with me, you know, is like when it touches someone who has anxiety and they might be struggling with it day, you know, day after day and feeling alone. And then they see this and they say that, we often hear people say that they felt seen or they feel less alone. But also what I love is when somebody who doesn't have anxiety watches it and then says, okay, I understand my person better. Because it's hard. I
Yes.
mean, anxiety is so internal. Unless
yeah,
you're having a panic attack. I mean, it's you know, people don't necessarily know when someone
right,
is suffering or struggling with anxiety. So
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
been interesting.
it's definitely very isolating, or it can be. And um also very hard to support someone if you aren't able to understand what
Yes.
ride they're on, you know, because
hmm
from the outside, it's like everything is great. Well, but you don't understand what's happening with my brain. I'm fascinated by the human brain. And, you know, there's a lot of empathy and compassion after you watch this film. recognizing that the people that are around you that you may think don't experience these things actually are. And then it makes you take a step back and wonder, well, what about the people closest to me?
Yeah.
You know, not
Es-
just aside from,
especially, sorry,
no, go
especially the
ahead.
funny people,
Oh yeah.
especially the comedians, you know, because you think they're the ones that are way out in front of this, but that's what was really kind of like is polarizing the word, I'm not sure, but it's like, wow, you wouldn't think
Surprising. Yeah.
depression and or you know, anxiety and would go with a comedian, but it's like
Oh yeah.
even they have it, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
the people that get on stage, like when I think of what a comedian does, they go in front of a room full of people and like tell jokes and make them laugh, like anxiety, you know, it's like, how do
Right.
you do that?
I know.
Yeah.
And someone like that can do that and has that skill also has anxiety about going out in public and just going to the grocery store. It's like, you know,
Yeah. Well, it's different for all of them. I mean, in some cases, some of the comedians feel a lot of anxiety before they go on stage or when they go on stage, when they're on
yeah,
stage. Others have no, they feel most in control and most safe in a way when they're on stage and having the least amount of anxiety when they're on stage. And then
hmm
they go off and maybe they have to talk to fans or what have you. And that's when the anxiety might kick in. So
yeah,
people are always surprised about that. But you know, their anxiety is like anybody else's. I mean, it's
yeah,
about the universal experience of anxiety, and it's just using comedians to talk about it. It's not, we really didn't even talk much about, you know, so-called stage fright. It was really just the same anxiety that anybody else might experience. They just happen to be comedians and they talk about it in their daily life more than the rest of us, or they analyze themselves, they're introspective, they have a different perspective and they're funny. And so it really helped to hear, you know, to talk about the subject using comedians. But yeah, it's the same thing that anybody else experiences.
yeah,
So
I think you did such a brilliant job bridging the gap between something that is so universally experienced, but usually not talked about and deeply human, and then finding the balance of making that funny without dismissing the severity of the subject or trying to lighten it in a way that minimizes the feeling. And so well done to you and your team. And I'm sure that was difficult. How did you know when to cut what and what to share and what to not? I mean, I always wonder that about a director or producer, the editing process.
yeah, I mean, listen, I work with an amazing team. My editor, Caroline Ehrenberg, is very experienced. She's a producer on the film and she's the editor, and we've known each other for decades. And she's a good friend. And so a lot of conversations that we had. And then she spent a lot of time in the edit room and she would work on, you know, finding the gems in each of the comedian stories and putting together sequences. And then, you know, it was just a long process, a lot of back and forth. And other people on the team also weighed in. And then we would have, you know, we would have screenings and for, you know, with other filmmakers, experienced filmmakers, and they would like give us comments. And so it was a long process of really finding the story, finding the balance. But, you know, a lot of that came through the edit, came from, you know, Caroline being in the edit room and that process of balancing, finding that balance, because it really, yeah, it did need to have both. And there's probably more comedy in the first half than the second half. I mean, listen, it's
Sure.
funny all along because the comedians are just inherently funny. I mean,
Right.
hmm
like even, I mean, Tiffany in the therapy, I mean, she's just so endearing. She's just such a love. You know, she's self-deprecating and,
Mhm.
you know, she's going through a lot in those therapy sessions,
Yeah.
but yet she's still always funny.
hmm
Not
Yeah.
always. I mean, there's a lot of emotion there too, but it's interesting that, you know, sometimes people are like feel funny laughing at the stories of, you know, Tiffany stories or other stories of the anxious experience, and as opposed to the stand up or the sketch videos, which is, of course, you're going to laugh at that, but you
hmm
know, just the comedians themselves in their daily lives are very interesting and often funny. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I forgot what the question was, but I think I
Finding the balance. And
yeah, finding
no,
the balance. Right.
it was
That was
perfectly
important.
answered. Yeah. I mean, and I'm so sorry I don't remember the therapist's name, the
Oh,
doc.
Natalie,
Yeah.
Natalie Noel.
She was wonderful. And specifically regarding Tiffany and her sessions, I just think that she also, I mean, obviously that's what she does in her
Yeah,
profession, so,
yeah.
but specifically in the film, the editors or however this came together did a great job showing where she would call Tiffany out and say like, hey, you're kind of hiding behind your comedy here. Like you can't
Wow.
self-deprecate to a fault where you then are avoiding what you're trying to face. And I thought that was nicely done too, because I love self-deprecating humor. I tend to do it, but it is definitely sometimes an escape
Yeah.
tactic from
Yeah.
facing, what's really there. And that's so
Absolutely.
relatable as well. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought up the LA Times article because I would love to hear more about some of the festivals that the film has been a part of, any awards, nominations, articles like LA Times, because this is huge. So please gloat for a minute about this. You deserve it. It's amazing.
Thank you. That's so nice. Yeah, I mean, the LA Times article, I mean, that is definitely the biggest thing so far, that the biggest press hit that we've gotten. But we've been in, let's see, I think we've screened at about 18 festivals. And they've been, I mean, most of them have been in the US, but we went to one that was in Barcelona, and it was the Brain Film Fest. It was all films about the brain,
Oh, wow.
which was so cool. That was really fun. And, got to go there and screen there. And it was, in Catalan subtitles. And we had 300 people there. And it was really fascinating to see it play in a whole different environment like that.
Right.
But we've won a few awards at some of the festivals. I think we've won 3 awards so far. We have at least a dozen more festivals coming up. We applied to a lot of festivals. We've gotten rejected from a bunch, and we've gotten into a whole lot. So it's been really, and I think it kind of builds when people hear about it, and then we get more invitations and more yeses from our submissions. So that's been really wonderful. And yeah, we've gotten a lot of a lot of press. I mean, we're working with publicists, so that's been really great. Falco Inc. They've been amazing, and I've done some other podcasts. Larry Wilmore, a bunch of other ones, and some of the comedians have been, they've gotten to do some press as well for it. So that's been really exciting. And
Yeah.
we're also doing a lot of community screenings with mental health organizations, colleges, universities that are starting to build, where we'll screen the film and then do a Q&A either in person or virtually.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we just really wanted to be seen by as many people as possible, and in particular to be seen by the people who need it most and who will hopefully be helped by it. So,
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. And I know that it's easy to make an assumption, but what is your hope that people take away from this the most after working with everyone and being involved in this process for so many years? I mean, actually, let me stop and ask a first question. What's your biggest takeaway and being involved in this in a different way?
my biggest takeaway in terms of anxiety.
In terms of, yeah, what you learned about anxiety, because it became less just your personal experience and now a very large experience with many people involved.
Yes.
So
Yes, really good question. I have to say that I learned a lot from Natalie, the therapist. One thing that I do often is maybe not. Something she had Tiffany do. Maybe this bad thing that you think is going to happen will happen. Maybe it won't. And it takes it. I think the purpose of it is that we're so focused on trying. When you have anxiety, we get very focused on trying to feel less uncertainty. So try to have certainty, try to have control. And just like in life, we can't always have control. So it's really going towards the uncertainty. Maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. For some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, I find that really helpful when I'm struggling with something. It's like almost like it interrupts. It interrupts like, oh, is the worry. And then it's like, maybe it will, maybe it won't. And somehow it reminds me, and then I think that's the intention. It reminds one that it's not always in your control. You know, give it up,
Mm.
let it go,
Yeah.
let it be. So that's one thing that has been really helpful. Another is when she said, when she was doing this triangle of how cognitive behavioral therapy works and just how our minds work, and it's thoughts, feelings, behaviors. So you get a thought and then you get anxious or fearful, and then you do something like avoid or people please or look for reassurance, that kind of thing. And she said that you're not going to stop having anxious thoughts. It's a matter of what you do with them, how you respond to them. And if you respond with, you know, maladaptive behaviors like avoidance or looking for reassurance or that kind of thing, or if you know, if you respond in a different way, in a healthier way, and that might mean different things for people. But you know, for me, sometimes it's interrupting the thought. If I'm ruminating about something, it's like, okay, Wendy, you know, you're just that's just anxiety, and you know, and then you cut it short, you cut short that loop, and then you might come back to it, but and you just keep doing it until you kind of train yourself not to. But also, you know, like right now I'm on medication, and it's funny because I've, even though I just made this film and talked to a lot of people who are struggling with anxiety, and many of them who take medication, I felt a little uncomfortable talking about it myself. But you know, I've been on something, and I continue to go to therapy, doing both together. And I
Mhm.
think at some point I won't be on medication, but I've been on something the last year or so, and it's very helpful. And I'm continuing to work on it so that when I'm ready to go off of it, which hopefully will be soon, I will, you know, be better equipped to respond to things better.
I
Yeah.
love that you brought that up because I think that's also stigmatized.
Yes.
And the fact that it is completely normal to need a little assistance in many areas of our lives, not just about having
Yeah.
anxiety or other, you know, I call them brain things, because I
Yeah.
have a tendency to just constantly find the negative, self-sabotage,
Yeah.
like and I have to
Yes.
interrupt. Greg's like, yes, she does.
She'll do something incredible and amazing that 10 years ago Cameo would be like, no way. And I'm like, honey, you just did that. And she's like, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not this. I'm like,
Keeps me humble is what I tell myself, but I know that's unhealthy. And so I have to find ways to interrupt the thought. But the idea that using medication to help me level off a little bit is a bad thing is just completely uh, being ignorant to the fact that that's just sometimes the way that the brain synapses work. That's just
Yeah.
sometimes you need to bridge the gap. But I love that you said you're working on it as a partner, like they
Yeah.
go together, so that if and when you're ready to go off of the medication, it's not such a steep, sharp
Exactly.
fall. I love that. I think that goes hand in hand with many medications, and you know, is a
Yeah.
huge, should be a huge topic of conversation itself. So I digress. But the whole thought interruption and I forgot about the maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. I have post-it notes everywhere, because that's what a useful and
Oh,
helpful tool to say, okay,
it's
it's
so
not that
powerful.
deep, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, it's so powerful. I don't know why it's so powerful, but it is. It's like a little magic trick sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a twofold thing. I think one is that it's a reminder that hey, we can't control everything, because once we realize that we can't control everything, then it's like you can kind of take a deep breath and say, "Ah, all right, I'm just gonna like let this be." But the other thing is I think it's a way of interrupting a worry thought,
Mm-hmm.
and getting away from it, and then you can come back a little stronger, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just want to mention again that the film is available on jolt.film. Um, I have linked it. I will link it in the show notes. I
Thank
am
you.
shouting from the rooftop, the mountaintop, that everyone needs to watch this film. Aside from more festivals and more promotion, what's next? Anything that has come up that we haven't talked about as a result of the film?
Let's see. I feel like I'm probably forgetting something. You know, we're we're building on the community events. I mean, that's going to be something that will continue probably could be for a couple of years. You know, I think eventually want to get into the high school audience, but you know, we'll have to take some things out of the film,
Sure.
edit it a little bit differently. But I think, you know, really trying to get it to those audiences that need it, high school, college, anxious. You know, we're forming some partnerships, partnership with Comedy Gives Back, which is an amazing organization, and they help comedians who are struggling with everything from mental health to substance abuse, financial crisis, that kind of thing. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America, they are becoming a partner. So, you know, we're looking to partner with organizations that, you know, that are in the same, you know, have similar goals.
The same mission, and give back so that they can support.
Help, yeah, and can help the organizations, and then people can find out, you know, more about us through them as well. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, lots of exciting things ahead, but we're taking it one step at a time.
Well, congratulations. And I'm so honored to have been able to meet you. I know, Greg, you feel the same way, not to speak for you, but it's just
I'm a
so
fan.
cool.
I'm a fan. This is great.
Yeah. And
So nice. Thank you guys.
I love that you've shared your personal story a little bit with us too. You know, I think that's such a huge part of it versus just I'm the director and the producer and this is my film. Also, here's my experience. And again, I just feel like these conversations at the forefront are what really make a difference. You know, they make a lot of change for people. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm sure you're tired some days and it can be exhausting, but also so exciting. So congratulations. And where can people find more?
Anxiety Club Movie. That is our website. That is on Instagram, on Facebook. Anxiety Club Movie is where to go. And yeah, there's a lot of information there, and we'll continue to add to that as we go along. And all of our screenings are on the website, upcoming screenings and community events.
Oh, great.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will link that in the show notes as well. And I know this is going to help so many of our listeners. This is a large topic of conversation, not necessarily anxiety or diagnosed anxiety, but just generally speaking, handling life, you know, at its different levels and moments. So
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Being a human.
That's right. The human experience. It's beautiful, but there are days when it's rough. So thank you again so much, Wendy. Everyone check out Anxiety Club. And we have new episodes every Wednesday. So if this resonated with you, please share it with a friend who can check out Anxiety Club as well. And all of the work that Wendy and her team are doing. It really is wonderful, guys. You're going to love it. We hope you'll join us again soon. Until next time.